I will talk about, and I wanted to talk about this anyway. After they made Curse of Frankenstein and The Horror of Dracula, Hammer Horror did a Jekyll and Hyde film. They did The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll. Now, this movie came out 1 year before The Curse of the Werewolf. So, The Curse of the Werewolf came out in 61, a great movie. It's the only film adaptation that I know of Guy Endor's Werewolf of Paris. It's not a perfect adaptation. They do change some things, um, but it's a really good movie. But before that, the 1 year before, they did The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll. And the interesting thing about their take on The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll, and I'm going to treat these movies, both The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll and The Curse of the Werewolf, all dealing with the same archetype, because I know it's technically different monsters, Mr. Hyde versus the werewolf, but they're the same duality of man, foundational archetype that we've been treating it as. The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll isn't a wonderful movie. It's not some perfect movie. The main character has to differentiate himself as Hyde and as Jekyll. So he's a little plastic when he's playing Jekyll. He's got a big fake beard on, and he's a little, because he's trying to be sort of non-emotive, because Hyde rather is the very emotive. The interesting thing about this is Mr. Hyde isn't some monstrous being. Mr. Hyde is this like more attractive gentleman, this more charismatic, younger looking gentleman, whereas Dr. Jekyll is the older, kind of forlorn doctor. And the reason they do that is because in this movie, it's an interesting take. I don't like this. I'm not saying this should be the take on all good Jekyll and Hyde stories, but it's an interesting alteration, a little variation on it. Dr. Jekyll doesn't even believe in good and evil, really. He sees himself as more amoral. He's not a bad guy. He opens up his garden to, like deaf children to come and play in and whatnot. He has a wife who he just totally neglects to the point where she's sleeping around on him with Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee has a great role in this movie. It's hilarious. But he's a really good actor. He's really great in the role. But Dr. Jekyll says within every personality, with every man's personality, there are two beings. He says one is man as he could be. And he says this is man is beyond good and evil. He's man as he could be. And what he means by that is that the man perfectly evolved, like the perfect highest evolution of man. And he doesn't really go into a lot of the specifics of what that is, but you could imagine, like in a lot of science fiction, they have like human beings evolve to the point where they've got telekinesis or stuff like that, just that kind of idea. They don't go into that specifics in this movie, but that's sort of the idea. Man as he could be, like a higher evolved being. So beyond good and evil. Good and evil have nothing to do with this, Jekyll says. Then he says, then the other man within human beings' personality is man as he would be, which again is beyond good and evil. It's just man as he would be, which is just what he would do if there were no moral restrictions or societal norms holding him back. Just man as he would be, completely given into his appetites. And the Dr. Jekyll in this movie is so short-sighted and so myopic that he doesn't realize that is actually evil. And by the end of it, he realizes that. The movie itself doesn't pretend that, well, there's no such thing as good and evil. No, by the end, the movie itself, Jekyll's lesson, he has to learn the lesson that, yeah, there's evil, and that man as he would be, just going out and taking whatever he wants, that's actually evil. That's bad. That's a bad thing. But he has to experiment with man as he would be before he can try to get to man as he could be. So that's why he brings forth Hyde first. And Hyde is an evil dude. I mean, he's very much a sociopathic, playful. Again, rape scenes in this. Even rapes his own wife, or it's Jekyll's wife, but it's Hyde doing it. At the end, when he knows she's going to run away with Christopher Lee's character. I mean, it's dark stuff. And you've got the inner struggle, which is so interesting in this movie between, and just in the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, the coolest things about that story is when the inner struggle starts to happen. Hyde starts to come out when Jekyll hasn't even drank the formula, and that's the inner struggle. If you feed the lesser man, if you feed the darker side of yourself, they're going to start coming out. That's going to start coming out in your personality. All these things you think you're doing in secret, even if no one finds out what you did in secret, they're going to learn that evil's within you, because the more you feed that your baser appetites, the more dominant they're going to be in your personality. It's a basic psychological truth and spiritual truth, Christian speaking. but it's really it's interestingly done, and Christopher Lee's great in the movie. Um, so yeah, if you're a Jekyll and Hyde fan, don't sleep on Two Chases of Dr. Jekyll. It didn't do very well in the United States, and I think that's because there was no like monster spectacle. I mean, again, Hyde was just this like gentlest, this charismatic, attractive gentleman or whatever. So it didn't do as well, and they did Curse of Frankenstein next. But it's worth watching. It's worth watching. The other before we wrapped on like 3 minutes here, but let me just say a couple more words about Curse of the Werewolf, which was the Hammer horror film done in 1950 or 61, I think. Um, just a great movie. It takes place. They set it in Spain for some reason instead of Paris, but the setting still works. And again, they took Guy Endor's Werewolf of Paris novel, which I think again, if you want to talk about seminal literary works that you can trace these archetypes back to, you certainly can trace the Wolfman archetype back to The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But I would always tuck in right next to it Guy Endor's Werewolf of Paris. Guy Endor's Werewolf of Paris was not, that's not taught in schools. It wasn't like some crazy popular book. Guy Endor was a screenwriter and he wrote this novel well before the Wolfman came out, Universal's Wolfman came out. But it bridges the gap. It takes the themes of Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and puts them right into the werewolf mythos in a way that's so interesting. And it's not it's subtly done. It's really fascinating though, but it ties into like French Revolution anxieties and everything. So you can't call yourself a werewolf fan if you haven't read Werewolf of Paris. It really is it's just an important step in the evolution of the of the story. And it's so you got to watch Curse of the Werewolf because like I said, it's the only film that even attempts to be an adaptation of it. Like I said, they changed the setting, but the time periods generally, it's still a period piece. Um, it's just really good. Classic ending. I just recently watched, and I won't talk about this until next week because we're going to talk about the things after 1970. But I watched Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, which was the Hammer horror film they did in the 70s there, and the ending of it was very evocative of the ending of Curse of the Werewolf. I was like, did they take this straight from Curse of the Werewolf? That was interesting. So I recommend Curse of the Werewolf as well. It's good stuff. And I would love to write something one day that's so dense of DNA that people would want to take from and do other stories with. But that's why we're still talking about specifically the novel Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and specifically the novel Bram Stoker's Dracula and Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because these stories, these novels, however you think of them, they were so rich. They tapped into so much humanity, struggles of humanity, certainly societal issues and anxieties of the day, but a basic human struggles and anxieties and aspirations and whatever as well that has carried them through the centuries, has carried them through so many different uh, changes to society or changes in cultural norms or so forth. They're still relevant. And that's what's so fascinating. So yeah, you can take, and so many people have taken and written stories that that evoke that same kind of idea or do it in a different way. It's fascinating.